Very good.
Well, hello, everyone. This is the Awareness Task Force of the City of Salem Human Rights Commission. I am Mike Waters. I'm the chair. I live in Ward 7. And I use they, them pronouns. And I will pass it to David.
Hello, I'm David Reinhold. I'm a resident of Polk County, and my pronouns are he or him. And I'll pass it to Trey Carrico.
Hi, I'm Tricarico, resident of Ward 2, and they, them, and I'll pass it to Gretchen.
Hi, everybody. Gretchen Bennett, staff to the commission, and she, her pronouns.
Gretchen, did we have any public comment in the last month?
We did not know.
All right. We have 3 of 5. That, I believe, is quorum. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at the minutes from June?
Yes, I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. It passes. So our main topic is communication of the student survey results. Gretchen forwarded you sort of a draft summary that I put together that was intended to be just kind of a shorter take on it than the full results. But in reading the students' full results, I thought they were excellent, and I didn't really have a lot to add or change. So I thought we should link to those full results that that the students put together. Thinking about this particular document, it seemed to me like we could obviously, like last year, share it on the City of Salem website, share it with our HRC email list, and then reach out to the reporter that covered it last year for Salem Reporter and see if she was interested in it. And because this year was so special with the students really ramping it up with the survey of the unsheltered residents, we thought it would be great to provide her with, we have permission to provide those essays that the students wrote, provide her with Marianne and Linnell as contacts to talk about kind of the survey and what it meant. And so that was kind of what I was thinking and what I had in mind, but I wondered what you all thought, both of the draft and then the potential plan to get the information out.
I read the draft earlier, and I thought it was good. I liked it. I thought it was right to the point, and it was a shorter version. So if somebody wanted to look at a shorter version as a highlight or summary, I think it was good.
I wondered if a question we could anticipate. I mean, no input from me on your proposal. It makes sense from my staff perspective, but I wanted, one question might be about, will the commission anticipate working with the recommendations or the conclusions that were in the student piece? And I wondered if, Mike, if you'd be, as the chair of the committee, you know, I know you mentioned being willing to talk with them too, but you might be the point person on something around, yeah, we're going to be bringing forward, you know, we'll talk about this, or if we'd want to connect with Angelo, but that's a question I think we can anticipate.
Yeah, it seems like if it's about the survey itself and why we do it and the methodology and things like that, that it makes sense to be me. But if it's about whether we're going to act on the recommendations, I really think it should be Angelo. I think that's just the most appropriate voice on that, if that makes sense. So we could offer both of us up to, I think she talked to both of us last year, actually,
Yeah, come to think of
Um,
it.
and Marianne. And I think the addition of Linnell and perhaps we even want to, when we reach out to her, we may even want to say that, if she'd like to talk with the students, I'm sure Marianne could help us get in touch with any of the students who might be willing to talk. Because to me, there's more story there. I try to think like a journalist sometimes when I think about what, and to me, there's a lot more story in what they got from the community this time. I mean, the data is really interesting. It hasn't changed a lot since 2020, except that we have a stronger data set. We have more participants, which is excellent. But I think what we saw from the unsheltered residents is really, really powerful. And we did not hear back from Kathy, is that right, at the communications, on the communications team, but would they typically need to sign off on this before it kind of got all posted and put places? I mean, it sounds like, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought I'll follow up again and share your feedback from this committee tonight. And like you just had some good observations around, like we could mention that Marianne would be a resource to connect to the students and some of those components. I can follow back up with Kathy from the communications team and then go ahead if we don't have any, if no one had changes tonight to your letter, I imagine we could go ahead and put it out in all of those places. Like you mentioned, webpage, the email group, and share with media.
Great. Would the communications people be the ones that would share out with media?
I think so.
Great.
If you're comfortable with that, that's normally how we do things.
And I mean, they could put it out to more than just Safara too. I mean, they could put it to Statesman Journal and probably those are the only two in Salem, but unless there's, is there Spanish speaking media in Salem?
Mm-hmm. They have a list. I know there's Spanish speaking radio. I'm not confident if it's in Salem precisely, but they have a list of media contacts that's in our region.
Great.
And so I imagine it would kind of flow in that way.
Great. Great.
Yeah. And then like you mentioned,
like if they probably use Flash Alert, don't they?
Yes, they do.
So if they use Flash Alert system, then they can just mark Salem and it'll hit everybody. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, they do. And then would you imagine for our email list, you know how we'd all built out the email list that includes community members who've signed up for information, as well as all of our stakeholder or identity organizations with whom we have community partnerships? Would the letter kind of be the primary content and then the links? I imagine that's how it would flow into the MailChimp format.
That's kind of what I thought. That's why I tried to keep it kind of short. I mean, it's not probably as short as I would do an email. Usually it's a little long for an email, but I think the content's kind of rich and those audiences are primed to receive it. So to me, it's okay that it's a little long, I think.
Great.
Do the commissioners themselves, do we receive those emails?
You know what? That is more of a varied experience, not necessarily automatically.
Do you think we could get added to that group?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
You'll find some redundancy sometimes, but that's probably fine, I would think.
I mean, if I get 2 emails from you, Gretchen, I would just delete one of them.
Yeah, yeah. Here's a question. Do you want or do we want the broader commission to receive your letter and have an opportunity to peek at it before it goes further? That might make sense. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
They saw the full report from the students in the meeting. So that might not be necessary as I think about it.
What do you all think? I mean, I have a bias being a communicator that I don't love a group edit. Um, but I also don't want to be blind to what feedback might make it, that somebody with a different lens might see. So, but it isn't significantly different, no, from what we saw from the students.
Yeah. And everyone had opportunity to engage in that content.
I'd be okay with just moving it forward myself.
Yeah, me too, as I think about it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Well, there were some pieces in the student survey that related to communications, and I don't know if you wanted to think about that in this meeting or in a different one, but
Yeah.
for example, the students pointed out some groups that were less aware of the Human Rights Commission than other groups, and that struck me as a topic for this meeting, maybe if not tonight at a future meeting, to how we want to adapt communication strategies to reach those audiences.
Yeah, I was thinking about unsheltered, and I don't think, and they were obviously the group that was the lowest in terms of awareness. And most of our ways of communicating through email, social media, website, and so on aren't necessarily going to reach that population. I don't know how many unsheltered individuals like would have a phone. There's probably some that do. I don't want to assume they wouldn't, but I would think that that's a group that's probably primed to have something printed like a little card or something that they can keep with them, as well as the distribution method is really important, because in order to get that kind of thing to them, it has to be in a place where they are. Like we do our trifold brochures, which are really great, but a trifold brochure isn't something that you're going to carry around with you in a, in a situation where you're moving from spot to spot and shelters and outdoors and all those kinds of things. So, I don't know if I'm just obsessed with business cards right now, but it just seems like, because sorry, David, we talked about this in the last meeting. I had another business card idea. It seems like a little card or something that had HRC info would be really valuable for this type of population. And we could also engage Linnell, more importantly than me coming up with random ideas, we could engage Linnell around what would be good methods for getting this out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that would be a great, like, next month's agenda if we could convince Linnell to come and be a guest again and participate with us on how do we get the word out about Human Rights Commission to unsheltered residents.
Yeah, and I wonder if part of our general outreach and tabling could be in the places where unsheltered people are, because I think we can do a lot to connect with shelters, with services, et cetera, but there's also a large portion that doesn't engage with those services. So it's like maybe once a quarter we take water and snacks and, high need items to an encampment. I know a lot of local organizations have been doing that. We can say, hey, we're with your Human Rights Commission and, we want to help, because yeah, the card is cool and all, but I would imagine the people who are not engaging in services probably have gotten a lot of cards and not felt that it served them. So I
Felt
think,
compelled to call. Yeah,
right. So if there was like a
of course.
face, you know, saying, hey, like we care about you, I think that would go a long way.
Gretchen, in your work as liaison, does this type of topic ever come up? And do you as a liaison, ever connect them to your other role, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And everything you're saying is making sense and sort of fitting. There's a number of street outreach partners and navigator positions that have recently been expanded with some recent state investments. And these folks are wonderfully open to receiving and sharing information as they're providing outreach. And then, as you said, Tricarico, there could also be direct visits to places. But if people have a relationship already with one of the organizations that have reached them, that they've built trust with, this is also a pathway through. There's also a couple of, the other thing that came to mind is there's a couple of existing things that we could infiltrate a little more. Like there's a pocket guide that has, it's kind of like a build on your business card idea, Mike.
Yeah.
It's a little tiny
Little guide, yeah,
little
of
guide
services.
Yeah, and I can't remember if we're in there, embarrassingly, but we should be if we're not, because that gets handed out quite a bit. And then there's resource connects that tend to draw sometimes people in who won't come or don't come to other types of services because there's sort of a unique array of things that happen. It usually happens once or twice a year, and that event could be an opportunity for tabling or resource sharing as well. So there's a few of those
Yeah, I
things
like that.
in my mind. There's a mechanism for communicating. There's an application called Basecamp that a little bit over 100 people, advocates and volunteers and nonprofit organizations communicate on. And I participate on that, and I could easily do a post, with a phone number and a reminder or a sharing of information. So that's another mechanism too.
Yeah, I love that, Gretchen. I think focusing on the people that already have that trust and connection would probably go a lot further, because if they trust that person, they're going to trust that person saying, hey, this is a resource that will actually help you, versus like a total stranger being like, hey, call us. So
Yeah.
I love all those ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's led to a few conversations. Like I remember one time a person who does regular outreach and knew about our work invited me to meet her at a park and talk with a person who lives there and had a situation. And we met together, the three of us, and had a couple of problem solving conversations. And I've had a couple of experiences like that, where sometimes it can lead to a facilitated introduction and some information sharing.
Yeah, I really like that.
So I think I'm hearing next month agenda to build it out, invite Linnell. Anytime, if you like, I can do a post on Basecamp that reminds our partners that we're here and we're a resource, and do a quick blurb on that anytime.
Yeah, I love that.
Great. Maybe, in fact, I don't know how you feel about it, but that could be another place where I share your letter, Mike. Like,
Yeah.
we could inform this community as well, since the
Yeah.
unsheltered. So
I mean, because it's such a huge amount of the story this year.
Yep.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
Could to play on Mike's business card idea, could the police carry those around and hand those out when they're having interactions with whatever community they're involved in?
Yep.
You're reading my mind. So in the last meeting, David, I was telling the group that I participated in an exercise last week with Salem PD, and in the exercise, very few of the officers participating actually gave HRC as a resource, and it was an exercise around a bias incident. And I want to clarify that the officers did really well in the exercise in terms of showing empathy, listening, showing care and concern. I mean, overall they did well, but where they all flubbed was in actually giving HRC as a resource. All 3 out of the 4 did not give the resource, and then one of them said, "I can get you in touch with Gretchen Bennett." So there was definitely a gap there, and it seems like the officers who are very used to giving out their business cards could have a card for bias incidents, that whether you're unsheltered or you're experiencing another type of bias incident or discrimination incident, they could have a card that had our contact information, and it would probably be really useful. So you're totally reading my mind.
I can see all first responders, even medics,
Oh yeah.
Great point.
Oh yeah.
We have
Totally.
those on city staff too, and I know them too. I'd be delighted to share that with both resources. And then you have the Northwest Human Services Street Outreach people that go out on when there's health situations, they go out and respond. I could ask them to take some. There's quite a few.
That makes me think we actually have quite a few people who are like consumer advocates at work. And I wonder if that would be another resource, because maybe what they're complaining about is usually like with insurance and stuff, but I'm sure they might get calls that don't really fit under our jurisdiction. So it's like, where do you go? And if it happens to be in Salem, that could be an option. Or, if they're in another Oregon city, I think many Oregon cities have an HRC, at least the big ones do. So, you need to go talk to Portland HRC, but yeah, I just thought of that. So I'm going to reach out to people at work.
That's great.
Does anybody see what the business card should look like or say?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good.
I can't stop myself. It's all that design stuff.
Good.
But like, to me, you can get these cards now that are on this, for lack of a better term, it's kind of like this plasticized paper where they're sort of unbreakable. And the reason that I mention that is if we're specifically going to send some to unsheltered, give them something durable, that's going to last, because it's got to make it through the elements and all of that stuff. So, and I think we have language on our bias brochure that probably could be real sharpened down and condensed into something really short. And then I was also thinking about, when we were building the survey, how those great discussions we had with Linnell around language and making sure that we define discrimination in a way that was really human. And I liked where we landed with that. So I could see one side of the card just being like, this is what discrimination is. And the other side of the card being like, if this has happened to you, here's where you call.
Okay, I have a really good idea. So
Yeah.
our Safe Spaces project is going to have like a recognizable sticker, yeah?
Yeah.
So what if this card had that sticker on one side and then the other stuff on the other side? So it's like, hey, if you don't have a phone or you don't know where to go, look for a place with this sticker, because they're going to be able to help you.
Shut the front door.
Right? Like,
that's really good.
so simple and easily recognizable. And we could make, part of our Safe Spaces budget could include, the stickers for the businesses, and then this durable thing to specifically give out to our sheltered population, because I know that based on the survey, that's an area that we really need to get more interaction with.
I love it. I hear mixed things about phones. Some to many I hear have them, but there's all kinds of challenge with keeping them charged and accessing Wi-Fi and not having them get stolen. And so it's a very
having a
unreliable
plan.
experience. Yeah.
Might have a phone, but have no plan.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if another, and this is, sorry, David, this is going back to Safe Spaces. I think we might need to put in our expectations explicitly that they will welcome unsheltered people and be a resource, because I know there's a lot of complaints about businesses turning folks away. So I don't want to set someone up. If we're saying, yeah, go to this business that has this sticker, like we need to make it really clear to the business that you have to be supporting. And that doesn't mean that you have to tolerate someone doing something really offensive towards you or your employees just because they're unsheltered, but like, don't just turn them away just because they don't look good to you, or they, you know what I mean? Like, there's that whole thing too.
Well, that's why I thought our discussion in the last meeting was so good, because we talked about the patrons have a responsibility too. So a patron coming in and looking a certain way or smelling a certain way, not a reason to turn them away. A patron doing something that is in turn discriminatory to your own employees is absolutely okay in that case to turn them away. So that's why I think you're just like full of the suggestions tonight.
Apparently I should show up with a
You're
headache
on
more
fire.
often. I don't know.
That's really good. I really like that. Yeah. And that to me says there's another thing, Gretchen, in our resource packet for safe spaces. I'm sorry we're doing so much meeting crossover, David, but unsheltered resources are going to be really important in that packet.
Yeah.
Well, so we've got some communication going out this month on our survey. We've got kind of a plan of talking some more next month about unsheltered residents. We have this idea of the durable card that is connected to Safe Spaces project. Another thing that we might want to, one of the things we've been trying to do is have more regular touch points with the community this year. And it's actually been kind of flowed kind of naturally because we had the survey as a really good opportunity for touch point. And I think we had a couple other touch points earlier in the year, a couple other emails that we sent out. I can't recall off the top of my head. But we might want to be thinking about at our next meeting in August, what our next touch point should be.
You're right. I think I'm realizing I should be tracking this in one common place, but I think the year began with the invitations to the HRC 101s.
That's right. We did the 101s. Yeah.
And then I think there was another thing that I don't remember. And I know there was the survey. There was also 2 different proclamations, 2 or 3 different
Oh yeah, there was Pride Month.
Yeah.
And was it Black History Month?
We did Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
We may have also there. I feel like there was another one too. So the proclamations went out. I can't remember, but yeah, it would make sense probably to have a simple tracker.
Well, and here's the other reason why we can do it all again next year. So without really planning, we actually have planned a pretty good suite of communications so far this year. And I think we just want to keep it up for the rest of the year. Think about what might be coming up this year. It'll be interesting to see. I think we were all really hopeful that a lot would open this year and there would be a lot of community events and community activities. And we may be a little bit delayed in some of that again by our virus that we're tracking. But if there are community things and events that are coming up, there might be more opportunities that will flow naturally. But
on the theme of Juneteenth, I know that it's not like a paid holiday, but I know there was an announcement by the governor to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day. So that might be something to put on our radar. I think the other proclamation.
Is that the one that replaces Columbus Day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's like October 11th or something.
Yeah.
I think the other proclamation we did was like our comment on like Black Lives Matter when there were some events going on. That was specifically from the HRC.
Yeah.
And that might be something that we post again, like on the anniversary of George Floyd's death or something like that to kind of, because there was events around that, right?
That was
Like,
when we used Oni's statement, right?
exactly. So,
Yeah.
check in with her and make sure that it's okay. But I think a lot of the things that are in there are still going to be salient in the years to come, and then we update that accordingly. But I think it would be good to keep a pulse on those like unofficial holidays that are really important to a lot of folks.
Yeah. I'm just looking up. The anniversary of George Floyd is already passed. That was May 25th
Yeah, so we'll have to prepare that for next year.
or next year.
We shared a document a couple months back. It was smaller than what I'd remembered, but it contained sort of a list of by-month events. And then I think Kathy had some thoughts about trying to build that out more too, so we could pull that back into this.
Yeah, I think we looked at that as part of LGBTQIA+, but I think it's probably more relevant to awareness. Yeah, I love that.
Can you hear my dog? I'm sorry.
No, can't
Oh,
hear.
good. She's in the next room.
Well, that was the total of our agenda. And is there anything else that we want to talk about tonight?
I have two tidbits, if that's okay.
Yeah.
You might remember that we had reached out. We were wanting to do a video from a person who had received some support from the Human Rights Commission, kind of from the user or customer standpoint, if you will. And they had developed a script and then were unable to tape. And then some time went by and they were, and then now again or not, just some challenging and recurring and varying health challenges. So they're again at a space where they would welcome us using the material in a way that doesn't involve them taping it, videotaping it. So I don't know if you'd like to pivot to a reader on their behalf that you sort of disclaim, or if you want to use the text, or, but it doesn't look like it's going to be workable for the person to tape. They declined a second time again after a yes in the middle there. So
could you resend that to me?
Yeah.
I could maybe fiddle with it. And I don't think it makes sense. I was thinking about this when you sent me that note. I don't think it makes sense for somebody to read it on their behalf. I think that's a little weird in a way. But I wonder if it's like a message about HRC with a quote from that.
There you go.
Then a little bit more about here's how you contact us, that kind of thing. I have an idea for it.
Great.
The commissioners were not, nobody took me up on my idea of the commissioners making videos about why we are commissioners, which is fine. Not every idea is going to land. So maybe I can make something out of this script.
Great, thank you.
And then we could check it with the person and make sure they were okay with what we did with it.
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
Good. My other thing is, I just got the list today of Salem's National Night Out parties that would welcome people dropping by. And those are coming up next Tuesday, August 3rd. And a couple of years, the Human Rights Commission would try to visit these with the hat of being a human rights commissioner on. I don't know with the changes in the virus or with it being next week, how practical that is, but I wanted to let you know that I did get the list of of the parties that are open in case folks are interested in that. I don't know if you think I should share it with the broader Human Rights Commission, if there's any support or suggestions that you'd offer that I send along with that on if you want to go to a party and bring up that you're with the commission, you know, or what you'd advise.
Yeah, I'd like to know when those are happening and see if there's any in my neighborhood. And I think it would be nice to send it out of like, hey, FYI, if you're wanting to connect with your neighborhood. I know we were really pushing hard for that pre-pandemic, but I do want to respect that not everyone is gung ho to get outside right now and talk to people.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. I wonder how I phrased that. Maybe it's just as you're interested and comfortable or something like that. Okay. Got it. Will do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have you back, Gretchen.
Oh,
We really, our guests were wonderful, so I don't want to, I'll say, but it's been nice to have you back these couple meetings.
thank you. Thank you. I like it too. It's good.
Yeah.
I enjoy these.
Anything else in member remarks and announcements? Seeing none, I think we are adjourned. It's great seeing you all tonight. Great ideas and energy and just